Okay? All right. Okay, good. All right, well, welcome. Thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate your coming to my talk today. I know there's lots of other exciting things going on today, so I appreciate your taking the time out to come here. My name is Emily Weber, and I'm a Food for Life nutrition and cooking instructor for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and the Cancer Project. But today I'm going to be doing a talk and cooking class on healthy vegan cooking for families. And before we go too far, I want to thank my assistants today. We have some assistants over here today. I'm sorry, tell me your name again. Ron and Megan, and Sarah, I think, is in the kitchen back there. And my friend Robert came down with me from Sacramento to help as well. So thank you so much to them. Without their help, this would not be possible. So I want to just explain to you a little bit about what's in front of you. You have a menu packet in front of you with our recipes. And, you know what, let me grab one so I can point that out. And I've got a whole big literature table over here, and I want to make sure everybody stops by the table before you leave if you haven't yet. The literature table over here has our new 4 food groups poster, the power plate, which focuses on fruits, grains, legumes, and vegetables, which is the 4 food groups advocated by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today in this hour. You'll notice that as well as meat and dairy not being included, you also don't see junk food like a bunch of sugar and chemicals and oils and things like that. So we're focusing on whole natural foods there. Lots of other handouts from PCRM, and feel free to just take whatever you want there and pass that along to your friends and family at home if you already know this stuff. So healthy vegan family cooking. Today we're going to do a creamy cauliflower macaroni and cheese, and we're going to do some fat-free vegan brownies. So what I really wanted to focus on today is food that was really great for kids. You know, sometimes with little kids especially, I have a 4.5-year-old son, and I hear a lot that, you know, kids don't like vegetables, and which I just think is ridiculous. But sometimes with kids' palates, you know, they're experiencing solid food for the first time. So they do have different needs than grown-ups. So we do need to cater a little bit differently to their food experiences. So sometimes, you know, food that's really exciting to us, they look at it and they go, that's too weird, that's too colorful, that's too exciting for me. So for me, as a cooking teacher, my biggest challenge has been cooking for my 4-year-old. I've really had to change my approach to cooking and make it a lot more simple and try to get the vegetables in a different way. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is the mac and cheese, and there are lots of different vegan mac and cheeses out there, but a lot of them do rely a lot on the fake cheeses and margarine and things like that. And I'm not saying those are necessarily bad, but we don't want to eat those all the time because they are processed foods. So we're going to focus more on making a mac and cheese that has a lot of whole foods in it. I want to know, how many of you are vegan? Wow, okay. And how many are parents? Okay, all right. So does anybody have struggles with getting kids to enjoy vegetables? Anybody? No. See, that's the opposite of the rest of the population. Okay, so let's just get going. All right, so I'm going to make my sauce first. And who has already had a cashew cream sauce? Okay, a lot of people have already had a cashew cream sauce. For desserts, okay, but not savory? Okay, so the basis of this sauce is cashews. But cashew cream sauces are basically a substitute for, a regular cream sauce. And it's a great idea. It was invented in the raw food community, which is awesome. They're so creative. However, they can be very heavy and rich. And although you're taking the dairy out, dairy is full of saturated fat and cholesterol, a lot of bad stuff that we don't want to eat. We're taking out a lot of the bad stuff, but we're still getting a lot of fat. So what I've done with this other cashew cream sauce that I've created is we're going to put in some cooked yellow squash. So all you do is you steam up. This is about 3 yellow squashes that are diced. And I'm just going to put those in to my Vitamix. Do I have one of my spatulas over there? Oh, no, it's over here. Sorry. We're organized. Got ready in like 15 minutes, putting everything out. Okay, so that's about 1.5 cups of yellow squash cooked. And you just steam it for about 5 minutes till it's tender. And then I've got about 1/2 cup of raw cashews. And raw cashews make the creamiest, dreamiest sauces. But if you use all cashews and water, it's just really too rich, like you were saying, right? Okay. So then for the cheesy flavor, I've got a little extra right here just in case. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Who's already used nutritional yeast? Yeah, see, you guys already know. Nutritional yeast is what's going to make it cheesy. And another great recipe is to take 2 cups of walnuts and a cup of nutritional yeast and a teaspoon of sea salt and grind that up in your food processor and use that instead of Parmesan. Whew, oh my God, I could just eat like a can of that stuff. Seriously, I'm scooping that. Not good. It's too delicious. Okay, so the nutritional yeast, that's going to make it cheesy. Then I've got 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. And cheese sauce has got to be tangy, okay? Sometimes with cheese sauces, they're just a little too flat, and sometimes we keep adding more and more salt, when what we really need is more acid. So that's just a basic cooking tip across the board. Fresh lemons, always keep fresh lemons in your vegetable drawer. Keep it bright, okay? The fresh lemons. And then here's one of my favorite ingredients, ume plum vinegar. Ume plum vinegar is tart and salty. It's totally different than any other vinegar. You can't use a different vinegar. It's different. It's actually a brine from the pickling of the ume plum. Sprinkle just a few drops on steamed kale. That's all you need for a side dish. So again, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of each one of these, and it just makes it like cheese. And this is not going to be like American cheese. This is going to be a little bit more like Gruyere, something like that. But not so crazy that the kids won't like it. Okay, and then again, for cheesiness, miso. 2 tablespoons of yellow miso, but you can put in whatever miso you have. I like yellow. I think it's the cheesiest. And miso is a fermented soybean paste. When you go to a Japanese restaurant and you get miso soup, that's what they're using. And you can make miso soup at home. It's so easy. Just keep, oh, I'm sorry, miso. I put 2 tablespoons. Is it not in the recipe? No, it is. Oh, yeah, okay. Yes. Miso, ume plum vinegar, the lemon, the nutritional yeast, and that's it. And then, oh, I didn't bring out water. Can I have a 1/2 cup of water? Actually, if you just fill up that with water, that's a 1/2 cup. And that's all I need. And then a little bit of pepper. Don't put too much, especially if you have kids, right? I tend to go a little crazy on the pepper. Okay, and then I happen to have some cauliflower that I already steamed. Now, if you want to be quick on a weeknight, you can boil your pasta and then throw the cauliflower into that same pot, but it's actually, you'll keep in more nutrients if you steam the cauliflower separately. Oh, thanks, that's all I need. Okay, so I'm going to put in some water. And I'm going to get this burner going. Let's see how this thing works, right? A new burner I've never used before. Okay. All right, it's heating up a little bit. All right, we'll let that preheat for just a minute, and this will just take a second. Now, did anybody go to Colleen's talk this morning? Yes. Isn't she great? And she said, whenever you're chopping up vegetables, chop up like twice as many, right? So whenever I cut up the yellow squash and I'm steaming it, I'll do like twice as much yellow squash as I need, steam it, and then I'll put the extra in a freezer bag in the freezer, so I always have extra yellow squash for my next batch of cheese sauce. And sometimes I'll make an extra little bit of cheese sauce, and I'll drizzle that on broccoli later in the week. Oh my God, it's so good. Okay, so I'm just going to switch this on. Okay, is it plugged in? Okay, that would help. But that's a good safety issue, so you don't trip and wipe out, right? Okay. Anybody have a Vitamix? Yeah. Ugh. Now, it does not have to be a Vitamix. A regular blender is fine. If you do invest in a Vitamix, I would marry this if this was a man, okay? I used to use my regular blender a lot, but since I got this thing, I use it all the time. God, I could just drink that. Okay, put that over there. Okay, so I'm just gonna put in my cauliflower, which I already cooked. And of course, you want to be classic and do some elbow macaroni, right? I tried to do some wagon wheel macaroni for my family the other day when my husband wanted some, macaroni salad. And he's like, it's okay, but I was pretty disappointed when I did some different shaped macaroni. Excuse me, it's a different shape. So, sorry. Sometimes you just have to stick with the original shape, right? I know. What's that all about? My son picked out the wagon wheels. He thought that was pretty cool. So, you guys can't see this. I don't have a mirror or anything. But you guys will be eating this soon enough. And here's my little tip. Whenever you're making a pasta dish, to make it higher in nutrients and lower in calories. That is to say, more nutrient dense and more calorie light. If a recipe calls for, say, a pound of pasta, only cook half a pound of pasta and substitute in at least a pound of vegetables. Whatever mix you want to do. So that's what we're doing here. I've got half a pound of pasta, and I've got a whole head of cauliflower. And usually I say to eat the rainbow. And I try to plan that way throughout the day, whatever food I'm eating. But sometimes with little kids, you want your food to be a little bit more simple. So when I'm serving this at home, I want to serve this. It's nice and plain and simple, and then have some peas or carrots or, green beans or whatever on the side. And, the cauliflower is purposely concealed, right? But then we're getting, our vegetables right there, and then vegetables on the side. So we're getting double vegetables, right? And then if you're somebody who wants to also lose weight, have a salad to start out with. So you're getting triple vegetables, but you're sort of not realizing it. Do the same thing if you're making spaghetti or something like that. Mix in the vegetables instead of the meatballs, that kind of a thing. So anytime you're making pasta, just think that way. Okay? All right, so I'm sure this is not going to heat up on this little burner. So I'm going to pass this back. All right. These, don't grab it like that. I'm going to put it just like this and then pass it back. These are cool. Bottom's going to be hot. Okay? Okay. And then you can heat that up. All right. And so then we're going to move on to our black bean brownies. Any questions or anything? Yeah.
If you don't have summer squash and didn't have the foresight to freeze them, is there any other vegetable you could use to make this sauce?
You can use zucchini. That works fine. I know that's summery too, so that might not help you out. I'll have to think about that if you don't have yellow squash or zucchini. Yeah, butternut could certainly work, but it'll give you a totally different taste. Yeah. You could do cauliflower. Again, it's going to affect the taste. So, I mean, you can try it. You can do all kinds of different vegetables with, you know, this whole concept, the whole idea. But then you're going to get into some different tastes and flavors and that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm sorry?
Can I use a substitute for vinegar?
Instead of the ume plum vinegar, that's a pretty specific ingredient. If you don't have ume plum vinegar, you can just leave it out and maybe add a little bit more salt, because that's what that's providing is tanginess and saltiness. So, yeah, I would say just leave it out and add a little bit of salt and maybe a little bit more lemon juice.
How about lemon juice?
Yeah, you might want to put in a little bit more lemon juice and a little bit of salt, and maybe a little bit more miso. Yeah.
What about a substitute for the nutritional yeast?
Nutritional yeast, that's pretty important. That's what's really making it cheesy. Yeah, and nutritional yeast, I mean, you can, are you allergic? Allergic, okay. I think if you just leave it out, I mean, it's only 2 tablespoons because you've got the miso and the ume plum vinegar. Those are all still providing that richness. So I think it'll still be really good, especially since you've got the cashews making it really creamy. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to find out what else we could do. But, yeah, send me an email. Maybe I'll figure that out. Because sometimes we can do a little bit of investigating to see what else could work. I had somebody who was allergic to garlic, and we found that there's a spice that substitutes for garlic. So I think it's called asafoetida or something. And so, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Soy, so miso. If you weren't going to use soy,
Yes.
or can't have soy, do you do this for the thickness or do you do it for the flavor?
It's for the flavor. It provides that saltiness and the sort of that aged flavor, sort of like how Parmesan, has that aged flavor. You can just leave it out. Any of these things, you can play around with and just leave out and see, how you like it. It's not the end of the world, It's a recipe that I made up, so you can make up your own. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's chickpea miso that's soy-free. There you go. Yeah, I just bought some the other day, and it's great. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so let's make the brownies, and I'll take questions at the end, too. Okay, so brownies. All right, so let's plug this in at the back. Thank you. Okay, so these black bean brownies, I created these in 2009, I think. It was for the, does anybody know who Dr. McDougall is? Okay, Dr. McDougall's awesome. If you want to get super healthy, read Dr. McDougall's books. It's a low-fat, whole foods plant-based diet, although he will totally argue with you. It's not plant-based, it's starch-based diet, okay? So you're really focusing a lot on starches, sweet potatoes, brown rice, stuff like that. He'll tell you that all long-lived, healthy, thin people, societies throughout the world have eaten a starch-based diet. Really interesting. He has a whole lecture on it on his website. Very cool. So I created this recipe when I was a guest at his celebrity chef event, which was very cool. And it is fat-free. It's not health food, okay? It still has sugar in it. They're brownies, okay? So don't eat 10 of them. But they have a can of black beans. If you want to make them yourself instead of buying canned, that's great. So we're going to take a can of black beans, drained and rinsed. So we're getting fiber and protein. I need a scraper, or maybe I'll just use a spoon here. That's fine. So fiber and protein. I mean, typical brownies have like a stick of butter, a bunch of eggs, really high in fat, really high in sugar. I mean, brownies are delicious, but really super unhealthy. So the beans are going to provide the binding and sort of like the eggs and the butter in this. All right. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get our food processor going, and we're going to stream in some maple syrup. When I first created this recipe, I used agave nectar, and people threw a fit about agave. Apparently, agave is 100% fructose, which is, Brad, you're smiling back there. It's 100% fructose, so it's sort of like nature's version of high fructose corn syrup. So, the word on the street is to stay away from fructose, agave. But whatever your view is on that, we're going to use pure maple syrup, and don't use a pancake syrup or something. I know you guys wouldn't do that. So we're going to use pure maple syrup. No expense has been spared with this group, right? So we're going to put in 1.5 cups, okay? It's a lot of sugar, but it's good. All right, we're streaming that in. We're going to make sure those beans get really nice and pulverized, because nobody wants to bite into a brownie and bite into a bean, right? Ooh. Ugh. Okay. So we've got our beans and our maple syrup. And then we're going to put in, I've got some flour here. That's the last thing that we're going to add. I've got 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. And I've got a little note about the cocoa powder. Chocolate across the board. There's a lot of news about slavery and chocolate. And I want you guys all to know about that. So there's information about that at, what's the website right there? Foodispower.org, the Food Empowerment Project. And Lauren Ornelas, she's out here. She's got a great website with information about what brands of chocolate do not support slavery and which ones do. So check that out. We want to make sure that we're buying organic and fair trade, because we want to be kind and compassionate to animals as well as to other humans. Okay? So it depends. It depends. Theoretically, yes, but there are some brands that, maybe they don't mean to, but they might be supporting a slavery, particularly child slavery. So, yeah, check out Lauren's website, and you'll find out a little bit more about it. Okay? So we're going to put in our cocoa powder and 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds. And you guys already probably know that the ground flax seeds are going to act as our binder. If you want to bake without eggs, you can take 2 tablespoons, or you can take a tablespoon of ground flax seeds with 3 tablespoons of water and mix that together, and it'll get all goopy like eggs. You can do that in pretty much any recipe. That's just one egg substitute. And since we've already got our maple syrup in there, that's like our liquid, so we don't need to add the water part. So we've got beans acting like a binder. We've got the flaxseed acting like a binder. Got all kinds of stuff that's going to tighten this up. Okay, then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of baking soda. Sorry, I should have opened all these up ahead of time. Oh yeah, 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds and 3 tablespoons of water. And then you whisk it up and just let it sit for like a couple of minutes, and it'll start getting all goopy like an egg. Yeah. Okay, got our baking soda. And then 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt. I particularly like Eden sea salt, but if you're using a sea salt that is not iodized, make sure that you're getting some kind of a supplement that has iodine in it. Make sure you're getting your iodine somewhere else, because most people get their iodine from salt. Okay. Either from a supplement form, or a lot of people get it from dairy because they treat the udders with iodine. So you probably want to get a supplement. Or sea vegetables, yeah. Some sea vegetables can be too high in iodine, so you have to be careful. Like kelp is super high in iodine. So if you're using any kelp, you want to get just a teeny tiny bit. So, and iodine is one of those you don't want to get too much, because that can be toxic too. So, yes, yes.
Did you grind the flax seeds yourself?
I did not. I did not. I buy it ground. I know it's better to grind it yourself.
I don't know what's better.
Yeah, it's better to grind it yourself, but I can't do everything from scratch. You know. Okay, so I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Your house is going to smell so good baking these brownies. Yum. Baked a whole bunch yesterday, or the day before, and oh my God, my house smelled awesome. Okay, so this is going to get ground up, and we're going to make sure this is nice and smooth, and then we're going to pulse in the flour. You don't want to put the flour in with this, or your brownies can be a little tough and heavy. Okay? We're going to make sure that this is all mixed first. It's so chocolatey. Yum. Oh my gosh. Oh, yes, you don't want to put the flour in with the other dry stuff. You just want to put that in last and just give it a quick pulse. And you don't want to overmix that, or your brownies can be a little, too heavy and dense. You know how if you overmix quick breads, like banana bread or things like that, and you just mix and mix and mix, or pancakes, and they just get really heavy and, too flat. It's from overmixing. Especially vegan baked goods can get that way, too tough and flat. So we just want to put that in and give it a few pulses. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's oat flour. Yes, you can use whole wheat pastry flour if you like. I'm really loving oat flour lately. It's really rich in fiber, soluble fiber that helps reduce your cholesterol, and it has a nice sweet taste. It's just great in baking, so I'm just really liking that. And it's wheat-free. I buy it, but yeah, you can do that. You can actually just buy oatmeal and just grind it up in your Vitamix or in a food processor and make your own oat flour. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, I've done that before too when I run out. Okay, so your batter should just look like regular old cake batter. So I'll show you guys. You see?
Wow. Smells good too.
Mm-hmm. So you'll want to lick the bowl. And I don't think anybody will guess that there are beans in there, right? Anybody?
And then the maple syrup, as opposed to other types of sweeteners, does it have a maple taste a little bit with the brownies? Or?
Well, you guys will have to be the judge when you try it, but I think what it lends to it is a little bit of depth of flavor and richness. Here, guys.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
regular, like batter.
So, yeah, it's batter. And here, you guys aren't seeing. So, I mean, it's all ground up and chocolate. Food processor. Food. Yeah, I think you could do it in a blender. That'll probably be fine. Yeah, and then it's so easy when it's in your food processor. Then you've only got one bowl. Did everybody see? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's a good question. Less maple syrup. I know. It's a ton of maple syrup. You could play around with that and sort of see what works. And I'll probably try to figure out something in the future. When I first created this recipe, I made a ton of different versions of it. I'm trying to make like the healthiest brownies in the world here, But the bottom line is they're brownies, right? So when you take out the oil, you gotta put something in there. And if you want them to be chocolatey, you have to balance out the chocolate with the sweetness. So, when you start taking out sweetness, then they're not going to taste like a brownie anymore. They're going to taste more like a muffin or So, play around. If you take out maple syrup, then you want to take out some of the cocoa powder, or they're going to be too bitter. And then, you'll want to put in probably some water or some soy milk or something to balance out the liquid and the dry. But go for it. Yeah. And you might see future versions from me that are a little bit different too. I think if you want it to be even healthier, you could use date syrup instead of maple syrup. If you make your own date syrup where you soak dates and blend that up with water, because the healthiest sweetener is actually dates, because that's a whole food. But again, it's not as sweet as maple syrup, and it does bake differently. It's more gummy and more dense. So you get a different effect with that. So, there you go. So we've got the food coming around here, I see. Okay. Oh, the Parmesan. 2 cups of raw walnuts and 1 cup of nutritional yeast and 1 teaspoon of sea salt, and blend that up in your food processor. And then you can just put that in a jar in your fridge and use that instead of Parmesan. You're welcome. So I'll definitely stay around for questions, and I want to say thank you so much. And is there a clipboard coming around?
Yes.
Okay, there's a clipboard coming around with, I'd love it if everybody would put their name and their email on there. You'll get my newsletters where I send out different information about, nutrition and health and events that I have coming up, recipes, cool stuff like that. What other questions? Are there questions? Hi, guys. Yes. PCRM. Yes. Yes. I do have upcoming classes with PCRM, and if you sign up for that newsletter, you'll also get information from PCRM. Do you have questions about PCRM? Oh, yes. These are the books that we use in class. I teach the Cancer Project classes and the Food for Life Diabetes classes. So I have these 2 classes coming up. Now I'm forgetting if there was something specific I was going to say. The Power Plate. Yeah, I really wanted to focus on the Power Plate. With the macaroni and cheese, we're eating from the new 4 food groups. So we've got vegetables and whole grains. And even the sauce is a vegetable-based sauce. So we've got our fruits and our legumes and our whole grains and vegetables. So whenever you're planning your meals throughout the day, just try to think about those food groups. And I know even for us vegans who've been vegan for a long time, I've been vegan for almost 10 years, sometimes we can sort of lean more towards processed foods. And I know that's not you guys. You guys are a really healthy crowd. But we can lean sometimes towards eating too much of the beige. So when we just focus more on those new 4 food groups, we'll really optimize our health. Yeah. Is there another question? Yeah.
Do you have on your website nutritive values of these recipes?
I don't. They're not nutrient analyzed, but they will be eventually. I'm working on a book, and those 2 recipes will be in the book, and they'll be nutrient analyzed eventually. But I'm sorry, I don't have the software for it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
The strawberry sauce, is that just pureed strawberry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't do the sauce. You have the recipe. It's in your packet. Yes, I didn't mention it. I'm sorry. The sauce is just strawberries with a little bit of maple syrup pureed up. Yeah. Yeah.
The brownies, no way could it taste the black. No way.
Thanks. It's good, huh? So what do you guys think? Has everybody eaten yet? Almost? It's okay? Same. Yeah. Yeah. Use the agave. If you have agave, use the agave. You know, it's the same. That's what I created the recipe based on agave. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry?
Agave, because it's healthy.
It's okay. Use the agave. It's the same. Yeah, the same amount. Honey, it's a little thicker, and I mean, honey is technically not vegan, but it's yeah, it'll be the same proportions. It's thicker though. Yeah, and it does have a little bit stronger flavor. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, yeah, yes.
Dates instead of the maple syrup?
Date syrup. Now, date syrup, I can't promise it's going to work the same way because you're getting a lot of fiber in there as well. It might be a little bit more gummy. But to make date syrup, you take dates and you soak them a little bit in water. And you can even cook them a little bit so they get nice and soaked. And then you can blend them up with water to make your own date syrup. See, as maple syrup. Right. It won't be as sweet, and it might make it a little bit more dense and gummy. Yeah. It's not quite as... I haven't yet. No, I've tried other recipes, though, with dates, and it's different. Yeah, I've made ice cream with dates. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Do we have any other questions? Questions? Okay. Yes. Yes.
I know you said it twice, but we didn't have our pen. What's the Parmesan cheese?
Oh, okay. Parmesan cheese recipe. Oh, no problem. Okay, the Parmesan is 2 cups of walnuts, 1 cup of nutritional yeast, and 1 teaspoon of sea salt. And grind that up in your food processor. And, I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
Almonds.
Oh, yes, you can use... Oh, yeah, you can use almonds, too. You can use whatever nut that you want. I use walnuts because they're really high in omega-3 fatty acids. And in our society, we get way too many omega-6s and omega-9s and not enough omega-3s. So that's a good way to get your omega-3s. But, yeah, you can use whatever nuts that you want. And so, yeah, and that will be quite salty. But then you'll eat less of it. If you use less salt, you're likely to pile on more. Yeah, yeah. And we have a few more people still waiting for food. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, good. But it's coming. All right. Good. Any other questions? Okay, good. And on my website, you'll find a week's worth of menus and recipes. So if you want to get started with some new ideas, they're up there in a menu plan. There's some green smoothie recipes, stir fries, things like that. And there's a whole bunch of great recipes at cancerproject.org and at pcrm.org as well. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Deborah. How